Alright, so I quit my job to go sailing, but how am I going to really afford that? I thought I'd make this video to answer that question, since it's probably the biggest question that I've been asked of late. How do you afford to quit your job and actually go sailing? Well, the truth of the matter is, this plan started years ago. But let me tell you all the steps that I took to get to this point. There's 5 steps that I took in order to save up enough money and pay off my debts so that I was able to put myself in a position to actually go sailing. Now, I'm going to be honest that I am a little bit short as to where I wanted to be, but I do have enough to where I'll be comfortable at least for 3 years. My goal was to have a 5-year cruising kitty, but 3 is going to have to be. The first step that I took was to liquidate all my debts. This is a bit different than liquidating assets. When you liquidate assets, you're basically cashing assets out or selling assets so that you can get that profit from it. Now, it's the same if you do have some equity in your assets to where you can sell off some of your assets, pay off the debt, and then still have some left over and have a little bit of profit. But the big difference in why I put it as liquidate your debts is because you're doing it to get rid of the debt part rather than to actually make a profit from it. I'll give you an example, like if you own a pickup truck that you bought for $55,000, you've paid $5,000 off, you owe $50,000 and you can only sell it for, say, $48,000. So $48,000, you pay $2,000 out of your pocket and you're out of debt, you're not making that $500 payment for the next 5 years. Yes, you lost money on it, but you've actually gained because you're not paying that interest and you're not having to deal with that debt for that long. Step number 2 is you cut your overhead, whether that be reducing your rent, reducing the amount of times that you go out to eat during the week, or not going out to eat at all, not going and getting designer clothes, things like that. That is reducing your overhead. By reducing your overhead, that allows you to take that money and pay it back into the debts that you still owe. Step number 3, diversify your income. By diversifying your income, you actually will gain more to put more towards your debts and save up more. Now, you can do this in many ways. I'm not going to get into all the ways because honestly, you can go how to make extra income on Google and you'll get 150,000 ideas. Whether you do it by getting a second job, or whether you do it by online income, freelancing, starting a YouTube channel, a blog, whatever you do, if you're generating a second income, you will have extra money to put towards your debts as well as your savings. Another form of diversifying your income is to actually liquidate your assets. If you got things that you're not using, things that have been sitting in your attic for the last 10 years, well, you don't want to move them anyways, so sell them. By liquidating anything that you can sell, you're going to get a lot of money, whether it be from a garage sale, online auctions like eBay or things like that. And at the very least, if you have a bunch of stuff that you're not using, even if you do a charitable donation, you can still write it off on your taxes and get a little bit for it. Step number 4 is you're going to limit spending. Now, this is different than cutting your overhead. When I talk about overhead, I was referring to things like shelter, food, clothing, the things that you really need to survive. That's kind of the overhead. It's the things that you have to buy. There's no way around it. You can't not buy food. You'll starve to death, and then you won't need any of this. So we're going to limit our spending. And by that, what I'm saying is don't spend money on things that you don't need. Take a look. See whether or not you need it, see whether or not you're going to use it, how often you're going to use it, things like that. So if you're going to buy a tool for $150 that you're going to use once in the next 5 years, go rent it, borrow it, do something, but don't buy it. The 5th step for getting into a position where you can quit your job and go sailing or go live your dreams, whatever they may be, is to repeat. Go back through steps 1, 2, 3, and 4 and reevaluate where you are. I would say in the beginning, probably do that after a month. And then after you get things going, you're going to want to do this at least quarterly because you're going to be paying off things and your needs are going to change. And you're going to want to be able to take a look at the budget that you got and see whether or not you can cut in little different areas. And by doing this over a couple of years, you're not going to pay off a lot of your debts. But once you've paid off those debts, you're going to be able to save a ton of money really quick. So that's how I basically went from having over $150,000 in debt to having about $100,000 that I can quit my job and go cruising with. I know this was a really quick video with a whole bunch of things thrown at you, but I do have a blog post. The link is in the description below, and that blog post will go a lot more into it. So if you want more information, check that out. And if you have any specific questions, or if you want to see other things as far as how I budgeted and what my budget is for cruising, things like that, go ahead and leave a comment below and let me know, and I will try to make a video about that. We'll see you in the next video.